everyone, and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name's David Edgar, and I'm usually your host on Heart and Hand, but not this week because, of course, there's no Rangers to discuss due to the international break. We will be back on Thursday with our Heart and Hand extra previewing a rather important weekend trip to Parkhead. But we didn't want to leave you with no content this week, so what we thought we'd do would be go back into our archives over on the Heart and Hand Patreon site. Now, if you haven't visited the Heart and Hand Patreon site, you really should. It's patreon.com/Heart and Hand, and for just $1.99 you'll get up to 5 shows every single month. But you'll also get access to our archive, which has over 1,000 hours of quality content, including this interview that our podder Chris Bett did with former Rangers defender Tony Vidmar. In it they cover an awful lot of Tony's time at Ibrox, and I think you'll enjoy it. And if you do, then why not head over to www.patreon.com/Heart and Hand, and you'll find plenty more stuff from Chris and a whole host of other podders. Until then, enjoy, and we'll be back on Thursday. Take care.
Hello everyone, it's Chris here with another episode of Bet On It, and it's another special interview that I've done with a former Rangers player. Today I spoke with Tony Vidmar, the Australian treble winning player. A very, very fascinating insight into a lot of things. Obviously you've got the Parma goal, which is a given. You have the game at Parkhead, where we won the league. He talks about his relationship with Advocaat, Walter Smith, Alex McLeish. It's a fantastic listen, so if you can all please listen to it and let me know how you found it in the comments below, and I'm sure you'll have just as much fun listening to it as I did recording it. Thank you very much.
Hi Tony, thanks very much for doing this. Thanks for joining me. We will start off with your early career with Adelaide City. So you made your debut in 1989 and you stayed there until 1995, winning 2 NSL Championship wins. How did you find, obviously, starting out in Australian football, and was your ambition always to play in Europe?
It was actually a tough during that time. Probably in Australian football, there was a lot of tough teams, tough players who were playing, and I think also there was a new generation of young players coming through that period. So it was actually a good mix, a good blend of football that was happening during that period, and learned a lot of football. At that stage, no, not at all. Not even thinking about looking at having a career. Just thinking that for myself, then it was just breaking into the first team, and wanted to stay in the first team. And I think even at that stage, a year later, got called up to the under 23 national team. So that happened pretty quickly, and then a year later, then I got called up to the full national team. So it came pretty quickly. So there was no real thoughts of heading overseas, even at 21 or 22. It probably started to happen just at the stage, probably when I already started. I probably would have played 15 or 20 national team games. You had that international exposure, you travelled overseas, and then that's probably when things started to change a little bit.
Well, in 1992, you actually played for the Olympics, the Olympic team for Australia. Was that a dream come true for you?
Yeah, that was unbelievable. It was an experience for myself. I still have that in high regards. It was a fantastic tournament. We were in Barcelona, so a fantastic city, football city, and I think we went there with a fairly good team. Players, I reckon that majority of those players were actually playing all in the national in the competition in Australia, so they were playing against men, and expectation wasn't high for us to do well, and we got to the semi-finals.
Yes, so I think a lot of people would have said he's overachieved, but the team that he's had was a quality team.
It was. There was a number of players who were already playing in the senior team, or just breaking into the senior team, and then not long after we're in the senior team as well. So yeah, it definitely was a very group of talented players.
So after the Olympics, you actually had a loan spell in Belgium for Beerschot. Do you think that came on the back of your performances at the Olympics?
Well, actually, it happened before the Olympics.
Oh, did it?
So yeah, so we had with the Olympics, we had some friendly games before we actually went to Barcelona in the Netherlands. We played against. I think we played against a French team, a Dutch team, and the club had actually seen me play there. And then, so then before I went to the Olympics, the deal was done, the contract was signed to go there. So as I said, it happened pretty quickly, and straight after the Olympics, it was straight to Belgium. But it wasn't an experience that I enjoyed. It was a real strange feeling. It was a small club, a small town. The mentality was strange, where they were just happy just to stay up. There was no real ambition, and so I found that frustrating coming from a team in Adelaide who were always fighting to be champions. So
would it be fair to say that they were the kind of team that would have been happy with a draw or a narrow defeat?
100%.
Yeah.
100%, and that was the mentality. And back then, Belgian football has changed a lot. Yeah. But back then, it was more focused on not conceding and defending.
Right.
And that was frustrating, because it was very reactive football, and it got to a point where I wasn't enjoying the whole scene, and at that stage I felt, I don't want to be here. Didn't want to be there, and then returned back to Adelaide, I think for a year and a half, and got myself back into the national team, and then had the call from NAC Breda if I wanted to go there. And Dutch football, I watched a fair bit of Dutch football, thought it was a good league to improve the game, to learn more. It's a strange one, because from Breda to Akron, where the club was at, it was like 40 kilometres away. And it was chalk and cheese in the way people were. They were fantastic in Holland, and in Belgium I found it quite the opposite.
Right. Did when you moved to Holland, was it a bit of a? I take it that was the first time you'd ever permanently moved away from Australia?
When I went to Belgium, Belgium was the first time.
Yeah.
It was probably a kick in the teeth that I needed, because I think during the years before that with the Olympic team, we travelled a fair bit overseas for tournaments or games, and then when I'd come back, then I'd be off with the national team, so I hardly spent any time at home. I was always travelling, so I probably thought it was going to be a little bit like that, and never really probably sat back and thought, now I need to roll up my sleeves and work hard and put up. That's going to be difficult, living on my own, family on the other side of the world, and if this is what I wanted to do, then I needed to make sure that I did everything right to give myself that opportunity to make having a long career in Europe.
Yeah. We'll slightly skip over your time in Holland and just go straight into your move with Rangers. How did that come about? Obviously, it was a free transfer, so I take it you were out of contract. How did you first hear about it? Who approached you? What was your initial thoughts and feelings, and what did you actually know about Rangers?
It was. I'm trying to think. It was in the winter break, so I was. The club, NAC wanted to re-sign me. I was kind of holding off at that stage. I didn't know whether I wanted to continue on there. It was the turn of the Bosman ruling. So that was completely new for a lot of people there. So knowing that I was a free transfer, so I kind of delayed on making any decision. There were a few other clubs interested. Nothing really. It was all just initial discussion, but nothing really concrete in any way. And received a phone call from my agent at the time, Tony Vidmar, who said that Rangers were actually going to come and watch a game. I think it was the first game after the winter break for us. So yeah, and I think it was Walter who came to that game. And yeah, I think I did okay. And then had the phone call that evening from my agent that they wanted to sit down and negotiate a contract.
And how much did you actually know about Rangers beforehand? Were they big over in Australia before you did some move?
Yeah, they were. Yeah. We always, apart from also the English football, you always got a Rangers Celtic game whenever it was on shown in Australia. So it was, and then also being in Holland for those couple of years, you got to see all the football, so you always got to see the big game, Rangers and Celtic. So I didn't know too much about the whole history of the club, but you just saw the games that they were involved in, and the passion from the supporters, and just the rivalry, and the games were immense.
Yeah. And how helpful was Craig Moore in helping you settle in at Rangers?
Yeah, Maury was good. Maury was excellent. It was when I did move there, he kind of helped me settle in there. So it's always nice to have someone that you know, fellow player, fellow countryman. And Maury was excellent. He was younger than me, so he was just breaking through as well. So it was good to have him there.
Yeah, I mean, some of the names that Rangers had when you arrived was like, I'll just name some. Paul Gascoigne, Brian Laudrup, Reno Gattuso, Andy Gorham, George Alberts. Obviously, Alan McLeish was still there. Ian Ferguson. I think Richard Gough came back for the end of that campaign. You had Marco Negri scoring about 30 goals in 10 games.
Yep.
What was that like to go into the dressing room with all these amazing players and different characters? And I suppose it's like nothing you'd ever seen before.
No, and that's the thing. It was I'd say intimidating.
Yeah.
Because I was still young, but you had those players who've been there for many years, or you had the foreign players. Even Jonas Tern came from Rome, a Swedish international, that year that I was there. So there were big names there, and of course it's intimidating, but it actually made you think, oh, okay, well, this is it. This is where you want to be. Well, then you got to make the most of it. And it was challenging. It was hard. There were good times. There's always bad times along the way. It's difficult. You're not playing, but then you are playing. So it was a fantastic place to be in, to start off in that. For me, it took time. It took time for me to get used to the football. It was much faster than I had been used to, and it was something that I probably admit that I struggled with it at first, and as I said, that took me a while during that first season. And it's a club where you don't have time to settle. You've actually got to produce straight away. So it was a difficult first year.
I think that's part of the uniqueness of playing for Rangers. There's very little time you get to obviously settle in. It's pretty much you have to hit the ground running.
The ground running, yeah.
Yeah, and I can totally appreciate obviously your struggles there, but I would say personally you did overcome them. How did you actually find Walter Smith as a manager and as a man?
He was a good man. He was definitely a good person. He was good to talk to. It was funny because he was very quietly spoken, but then he could actually really give some players some treatment as well.
Well, I was going to say that. Did you ever get in the wrong side of him?
I don't think I did. I would remember something like that. No, I don't remember anything.
What was the worst dressing down that you'd seen him give?
I'm trying to remember the games. I reckon it was. I can't remember what was said, but I reckon it was the half time away to Hibs. I think we were 3-1 down at half time. We ended up winning 4-3 or 3-0. We're 3-0 down or something like that, and it was just. It was not a nice place to be in at half time.
No.
And yeah, as we said, we ended up winning 4-3. I think George scored towards the end. Some thunderbolt from him.
Yeah, as usual, as it was with George. There's one in particular goal that I want to speak about. We spoke about it briefly offline. I must admit, doing my research, I didn't know anything about that. It was one of the other poddles that we have. His name's Cammy Bell. He actually says to me that he was at a Rangers Celtic reserve game at Ibrox where there was around 30,000 there, and I'm quoting him. He said it was one of the best goals he'd ever seen any player score, and that was scored by you. Can you just talk me through the goal?
He hasn't seen too many games then, has he?
well, Tony, I think you're doing yourself a bit of an injustice here, because from what I've heard, it was an absolute Messi-esque goal. Can you just talk me through what actually happened?
What I can vaguely remember is I received the ball on the halfway line and went through the middle. And I reckon I think I was playing left back that game. So I took it down the left, cut it in, and I think I pretty much hit it with my right. Bent it in the top corner or something like that. But I do remember that part. But I do remember there was a big crowd at the stadium. So yeah, and as you said, as you mentioned it the other day, I just totally forgot about it. And as I said, if you can find some footage on it, good luck.
Yeah, well, I'm trying. But that was, to put that into perspective, Tony. That was a reserve game with 30,000 people there, and obviously it's something that has kind of went to the back of your mind. How does that make you feel, knowing that that's created memories for many, many fans?
Yeah, it's special. It's a special thing that someone can remember that. Players have come and gone through the club, and that goal gets remembered. It's unique. It's a good feeling, and you think that whenever you're at a club that you'd hope that you do well and that you can leave a lasting memory or memories with your supporters and with your club. That when you do return at some point, you remember the place.
Yeah, well, in a little bit we'll go on to another goal that you scored that will certainly be remembered for the rest of my days, rest of many Rangers fans' days. But just before we get to that, we'll stay on your first season with Rangers. Around about the Christmas time, you went to play in the Confederations Cup with Australia. Now, I didn't know much about this, and doing my research, it looked as if you had a very, very good tournament. I just want to ask you, in your group you finished second, you beat Mexico 3-1, which is an outstanding result. You then draw with Brazil, nothing each, and Brazil at the time were the reigning world champions, so that's a very credible draw. So, what happened against Saudi Arabia? Did you beat 1-0?
We got beat 1-0, I reckon we played with a handbrake on.
Yeah, I think you said, I just reading between the lines, I can kind of guess that.
I I'm not sure if he had actually already qualified.
I think he's had. I think he's had because
so that's probably. I think. Yeah. So I think there was probably a few changes made. So look, again, it was a tournament that we weren't expected to. Again, the expectation wasn't high, probably in the media or in our own country. But again, we had a very, very good team out there.
It was an awesome team. Just reading some of the names. I mean, in the semi-final, you beat Uruguay 1-0. Harry Kewell scored. I think that was maybe the first time a golden goal had ever been decided in a football match. I'm not too sure about that.
I can't remember.
It was certainly a golden goal that he scored. Just from my research, and just around the timeline, I'm going to say that it probably was one of the first, if not the first time. And then obviously you get to the final and you meet Brazil again. It does seem to be a bit of a disaster, that match. You get beat 6-0. Mark Viduka gets sent off. I think you get taken off quite early because there had to be a few changes, tactical changes. It was you and another player that gets taken off. Was it one game too many maybe?
Yeah, look, it was hard enough. It was hard enough that we drew in the group game with 11 men, 0-0, and then playing with 10 men. Then it becomes even harder. So that was the difficult part of it. And look, as I said, we had a fantastic tournament. We didn't change too many players. So I think a lot of players were probably coming to a point where you're playing at ultimate fatigue. And it was it was a fantastic tournament. It really was. It probably. With the players we had, who continued on probably till the next 10 years. Yeah. So it was it was the start of a good group of players.
Yeah, definitely. So back at Rangers after the Confederations Cup, Walter Smith has announced that he's leaving. How did that affect the dressing room?
It was a strange feeling. Yeah, I just said that Walter decided to step down, and a lot of players have been there for a number of years. So I think their futures were going to be in doubt. It was a strange feeling, and for me it was even more strange because that was my first season. As I said, there was a lot of players there who'd been there for a number of years, so they were part of history of the club. So it was a very strange feeling for me, but also probably for those group of players who felt that they wouldn't be there this following season, and that kind of was the case when Dick Advocaat came in.
The perception of most Rangers fans is Walter announcing that he was leaving probably cost us 10 in a row. Would you agree with that statement?
I don't know. It's hindsight is always a wonderful thing. Yeah. I think we didn't. Being there, I thought that the first half of the season was very good, but then after the New Year's and all that, I think we became very patchy in our performances. We didn't, I don't think, have a consistent run of games, of winning games. So I think probably that had probably more of an effect than Walter stepping down.
Yeah, and obviously Dick Advocaat was announced as he was going to be the new Rangers manager. Pretty soon after Walter actually announced that he was leaving, and he would obviously take over in the summer. Were guys like yourself who'd just been there, and obviously your future maybe wasn't as uncertain as it was for the other guys like Stuart McCall, Alan McCoy, Andy Gorham, were you excited about this?
Look, you're excited, but then also nervous because you don't know what the new manager will do. He will bring in his own players that he sees fit. So you went with that unknown. Even though you had a contract, you still had that unknown whether you'd still be there. Mm-hmm. And he brought in a lot of players, and he brought in especially two in Arthur Newman and Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, who could play as left backs. Yes. So that was something that I thought, well, maybe it's going to be a difficult time for me then. Yeah. So I had no idea what was going to happen. I just made sure that once pre-season started, that I just put my head down, worked hard, and tried to put in good enough performances to keep me there.
So obviously you were a very versatile player. You could play right back, left back, and at times you could play centre half. You could play right across the back four. Do you think that helped you or hurt you?
Well, I don't think it. Well, I think it. I don't think it did, because I reckon it was about a month after the pre-season had started. Dick called me into his office and said that I could actually leave the club for free. Right. So if there was a club who wanted to take you, you could leave, because he said that I'm not going to play. We've brought in quite a few players. He said, look, you've actually been training really well. The games you played well. He said, I just want to be honest with you. Then I think it'll be difficult for you, and maybe it's good to go somewhere to play football. And then I was actually training with the reserves at that stage with Bomber Brown.
Yeah. And
would have been training, I think, for at least 2-3 weeks there. And then all of a sudden got a message that I needed to report to first team training, because I think Arthur Newman was injured. And then I think I was thrown into the first team, in the game. I think it was St Johnson at home, and played very well. And then I think Arthur Newman was going to be injured for a number of months. So I thought maybe I was just going to fill in for 1 or 2 games, and then that was it. And then after played another game. Played well. I can't remember who the second game was, and then I went into the manager's office and said, "Look, okay, I've played these 2 games. Am I still free to go?" And he says, "No, you're not going anywhere." So how things change in football.
Yeah, you've stated your claim for a match, and that's for a place in the team, and that's what it's all about. Football can change very quickly.
Yep.
Obviously, with Advocaat coming in, as you mentioned, they brought in some right quality players. Your Newmans, Van Bronckhorst, Kanchelski, Charbonnier, Kloss, Claudio Reyna, Craig Moore returned. It was an awesome team that Dick Advocaat built, and as a fan, it was very exciting times. But in the dressing room, what was the actual ambition from the team and the players? What were you wanting to achieve? Was it European success? Did you think that anything was possible?
I think everything was possible.
Yeah.
I don't think there was one player just thinking for the domestic competition or the European competition. I think there were players who have won things before and who just want to keep winning. And that was the feeling we had when we walked onto the field, that we would win. Not being arrogant, but we just believed in what we could do. And yeah, totally agree with what you said. We played some unbelievable football, some really good football to watch and be a part of. There was that first season with Advocaat was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was.
The whole season.
It was. The first objective for any Rangers team, if they haven't won the league the previous year, is to get the league title back. And
yes.
that's obviously the main thing on Rangers fans' minds. Get the title back. That's the first and foremost. We had an opportunity to win the title back from Celtic, and it was a game at Parkhead. Now I want to speak about this in a little bit in depth because you played in this game. I couldn't speak to Craig Moore about this because he was actually injured for this game, or I think he'd left. I don't know, one of the two, but he wasn't involved. So before the game, we've got the chance to win the league at Parkhead. What was the atmosphere like before you even arrived at the stadium? The build-up in that week. What were you guys talking about? Were you excited about it? Did you really, really want to do it? Did it add a bit of spice to it?
Yeah, look, I think you're going to go to your biggest rivals, and you can claim the championship in their own backyard. So I think that's incentive enough.
Yeah.
And it was, and look, it was for both, for the non-Scottish players and the Scottish players. It was the same. Let's go there and win the game. And again, yeah, it was a great game to be a part of, because I think we had our probably nervous moments. They had some chances, but then I think we took our opportunities, and then I think once we scored the first goal, then I don't think we were actually going to lose the game. That's how it felt, that we just needed to get that first goal, and we would win the game.
Yeah.
And Neil McCann had an absolute blinder.
Yeah, he did.
That day. So.
What was it like to be on the park at the time when obviously Hugh Dallas, the referee, get hit with a coin, and then you had the pitch invaders? Were you fearing for your safety a little, or was it anything like you'd ever experienced before?
Yeah, no, it was nothing I've experienced before. It was kind of eerie in a way, because you don't expect that to happen.
No.
And you actually felt for Hugh that that happened, and you actually, and I think there was even some supporters had somehow got on the field as well. So you're kind of thinking, all right, what's going to happen here? Is it going to blow up in some kind of way? And then you're thinking, well, if people would start invading the pitch, are they going to call the game off? And you didn't want that to happen.
No.
So it was a little bit, as I said, a little bit eerie. Just didn't know what could happen. As I said, it just could have just gone crazy. But yeah.
Hugh Dallas was hit with a coin, and Van Bronckhorst then had the corner free kick, just at whatever it was. He's put the ball in. You were actually fouled by Vidar Risef, I think it was.
Yep, that's correct, yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so my opinion on that is it's 100% a penalty, because I'm a Rangers fan and because it was a penalty. I don't think you went down easily. I think you done exactly what any player would have done in that situation. You got dragged down. 100% was a penalty. But what I will say is, as a footballing fan and as a Rangers fan, Hugh Dallas it would have been completely understandable if Hugh Dallas never gave that penalty, because he'd just been hit with the coin.
Yep.
I mean, it took balls, but did you think he would have gave the penalty? When you get dragged down, did you think, right, this is definitely a penalty here, he's definitely going to give this?
I felt it was a definite penalty, but for some reason I thought that he took a while to make a decision, so at that stage it was just still boiling point.
Yes.
As well, so the ball gets put into the box. There's always something going to happen, and as you said, that Vidar Risef, grabbed me as I tried to peel off him behind at the back post. So I think the decision was a correct one.
Yeah, it was definitely a correct one, but as I said, I think it'd be completely understandable if he never gave it.
Definitely. He could have not given it. He could have let it go. So I can understand that as well with that situation, or what's happened.
Because after the penalty was awarded, I think it took about 3-4 minutes for Alberts to actually step up, because there was a few pitch invasions again, and it was just absolute. It was crazy. So the half-time whistles went. Two things. First thing is, yous are getting in half-time 2-0 up. The game's as good as over. What's Dick saying to you all at half-time? Is he keeping his calm? Is he basically saying keep your composure? They're losing it here. Their fans are going mental. They don't get involved.
I think Dick didn't have to say too much. I think that we were the one team that was actually in control of the situation. I think they had a number of players who had red mist. Yes. Which unfortunately for them, because it affected everything they were trying to do. And I think we were just in that control where we had our heads screwed on.
Yeah.
And we knew that we didn't want to get in any kind of altercation, provocation, anything that was going to either lose a man or change the game in that regard, because that could happen. You lose a player in the game, the game changes as well.
Absolutely. Were you actually aware that a Celtic fan had actually flung himself off one of the top tiers onto the crowd below him at half time?
No, I'm not aware of that.
That happened at half time. A Celtic fan actually jumped off one of the tiers and landed in the crowd below him. It was crazy scenes, honestly. It was just...
Jesus.
It was the implosion of all implosions by him. So the full-time whistle goes. We've won 3-0. Neil McCann's wrapped it up. You go to your knees and you lift the ball as if it's a trophy. I need to ask you, I don't expect an answer here, but I would bloody love one. Whose idea was it for the huddle?
Oh, I don't even remember. I think it was because we were all over in that area where the Rangers supporters were. So we were just in ecstatic mode and happy, and just got that result that we've just become champions. So it was never. I don't even remember anyone mentioning it. I think it was just something that just happened.
Yeah. And what was said in the huddle? Do you remember that?
Oh, I don't even remember. I don't even remember.
Was it just complete euphoria?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was. As I said, I couldn't remember. There's probably a lot of swearing going on.
Yeah.
In that sense.
It was from a Rangers fan's point of view. It was certainly the cherry on top of the cake. It really was. Everything that happened that day was just perfect, and I wouldn't change anything.
No.
It was just tremendous. I take it the dressing room afterwards was pretty colourful as well.
Yes, it was. I think even the ride home was colourful. And then the celebration that evening was colourful. So it was a fantastic day. And
could you sense how much it meant to the fans?
Oh yeah. Look, they put themselves through so much as well. They season ticket holders, travel expenses to do that. They love the club. They want to see the club do well. They want the players to perform. And sometimes there's games you perform well and you don't win, or you perform poorly and you deserve to be criticised. But they were fantastic, and I think it was they had an unbelievable year and watched, as I said, a lot of great football being played.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And obviously we finished that season with a treble. A great personal achievement for yourself. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Rangers, was to win silverware. And it was look, it was an unbelievable year because 10 months before that, I was told that I could leave the club and find another club. So just about not being involved, and then all of a sudden playing a massive focal point in that season. Yeah,
absolutely. So the next season, I'm not going to go into too much depth about everything that happened in the next season, but there is one particular game that I want to speak about. Could you guess what it is?
Was it? Let me think. It was a friendly game.
No.
Pre-season friendly game where I scored 3 goals.
No, it wasn't. No. we don't. Even if that was true, we still wouldn't care.
No, it was true. It was true.
Was it actually true?
Yeah, Livingston. We played Livingston in friendly. I don't know how I remember that. So.
Well, you scored a hat-trick. That's probably how you remember. But,
there you go. There's something else you need to look up.
No. Because I think this supersedes everything. Parma, Ibrox, current UEFA Cup holders, Champions League playoff game. They've got Buffon, William Thuram, Baggio, Ortego, Cannavaro. We've got a great team as well. I don't think we've got a better team than Parma on paper, especially when you look at what they guys achieved in the game. Tony, I'm just going to come and say it. You're pretty much immortal with the Rangers fans for this game. You will be remembered until the end of time for this. Talk me through that goal and the atmosphere.
Look, the European games were special atmosphere, totally different to the domestic games. So it was an opportunity to qualify for the Champions League, and came up against, as you said, a very, very talented Parma team who had full of internationals and were had success the years before that. So the expectation was high. It was going to be a difficult game. We knew that we needed to get a lead going into the second leg, and not conceding. That just that night has definitely changed me in a way that you get on the score sheet to help the team take a 2-0 lead into second leg.
The quality of the goal as well, when you cut in and then you've hit it, see, as soon as the ball left your foot, did you have a good feeling it was going in?
It happened pretty quickly. So yeah, as I cut in, and I think it was Thuram who was coming at me, so I've just had to hit it pretty quickly. And took a deflection to go over Buffon, but you take it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as you said, that it kind of like took forever for it to go up and then come down and hit the back of the net. So I think at that
was
that
it the
stage,
most important goal you've ever scored?
Oh, yeah, I think for the club, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. I think before that I hadn't scored for the club, so it was probably in a competition my first goal, I think. No, actually, wouldn't have. So, but European goal, definitely European goal, and it was it was an unbelievable experience, and it was a fantastic night. And as you said, we actually again we played some good football again that night.
Oh yeah, it was a tremendous performance, absolutely tremendous. So moving on from that, obviously we won the double that season. We won the league and one of the cups. It then started to go wrong for Advocaat a little bit. Now, what would you say was the main downfall for Advocaat? Was there cliques forming in the dressing room? Was the Dutch guys maybe not interacting with the other guys? Was it all becoming a bit of a kind of individual thing rather than a team thing?
It definitely was something that there's something definitely changed. I'm just trying to think. There was quite a bit of turnover of players as well. I think there was new players.
I think we were signing a player every other week.
Yeah, that came in. So the gel and the chemistry wasn't really there it was before, and I felt that probably that the change of players wasn't required.
Yeah.
But and again, you're going into the team harmony, the balance, the group, how they get on. That kind of maybe has had a bit of an effect as well. And I don't think that we played together as one as we had done previously. Whether we became complacent, maybe that played part of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex McLeish then arrives, and Alex McLeish is very well known for his man management skills and obviously bonding a team together. What would you say was the main changes that happened under McLeish pretty much straight away? How did he manage to get performances out of these players that Advocaat just failed to do towards the end?
Look, I think it was the fight, the spirit. Mm-hmm. Working for each other. I think that probably disappeared a little bit because you got to play at 100%. You can't play 90 or 80%. Because the other teams will fight harder than you. And I think that's probably what happened, and that's probably something that Alex brought in. It was getting that, we knew the quality that we had, that we can play football, but again, it's that, you've got to work, you've got to roll your sleeves up first to win your battles and then play football. And I think that's probably something that we forgot to do.
Yeah. It was quite a remarkable turnaround. Obviously, we went on to win the Scottish League Cup and the Scottish Cup. in actual fact, your last ever kind of game, I know you didn't make an appearance from the bench, was the 3-2 Scottish Cup one against Celtic. As I alluded to, you didn't actually come off the bench that day, but what was it like just sitting on the bench watching just an absolutely remarkable game unfold?
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking when you're not on the pitch. Then it becomes even more hard to watch because you want to be out there. You don't really have any control of what's happening. But as you said, that it was a free-flowing game, but it was also tough, and it could have gone either way. And I think we got scored late to win the game. If I recall that correctly.
Yes, we did. It was basically the last kick of the ball with Peter Lovingcrantz.
Yep.
It was just, as a fan, it was just unbelievable. So going into the next season, obviously you would then go to leave Rangers to join Middlesbrough. What did McLeish say to you about leaving? Did they say, like, you can go with my blessing? Did you want to leave? Was there any chance of you staying on?
Well, that was probably the disappointing part. Which I probably was disappointed, and that before I reckon it was months before I spoke with Dick, because he went up to the upstairs, and we spoke, and he said that he said to me, "Do you want to stay?" I said, "Yep, I'd like to stay on." So he said that, "Yep, all right, we'll get that sorted." So in discussion, we kind of had an agreement that I would continue on for another year. And then months went past and I didn't really hear anything, so I thought it was a bit strange. And then I think it was the lead up to the Cup, that Alex called me into his office, and he basically said, "Look, the goalposts have changed. We can't offer you a contract." So that was actually disappointing, because it was, yes, we'll offer you start to negotiations, and then there wasn't. So it kind of, it was disappointed in how it was handled. I thought they could have handled that much better.
Yeah.
If they knew that a few months before, then tell me. So
from my point of view, I don't know if any Rangers fans agree or disagree. I'm only giving my personal opinion here. It seemed very odd to me that he let you go and then signed one of your fellow countrymen, Kevin Muscat.
Yep.
Because Muscat played in essentially the same position as you. And McLeish didn't trust Muscat when it came to an Old Firm game, for example, because of his temperament and obviously his track record. I'm not saying anything bad about Kevin here. I'm stating basically what happened. And then in January of that year, we went and signed Jerome Bonicel, who was a left back. So essentially, he signed a guy, Kevin Muscat, who could play right back or left back, and he signed Jerome Bonicel, who can play left back, for reasons that can only be described as squad depth, when he actually had you there that could, you're one guy, but you can play in 3 or 4 different positions. It did seem odd to me, and I don't think he actually thought it through very well. So
no.
I don't get it.
As I said, I think it was. I think that. I think the Kevin Muscat was already done just before that. So it was probably a situation where we've just signed a defender with them. We need to let me go. So look, that's in the end. That's his call. That's his decision. And then you just move on. Yeah. That's all you can do.
So as you said, you did move on. You went to play for Middlesbrough and then Cardiff. From what I gather, you're a bit of a kind of cult hero with Cardiff. Would you say you enjoyed your spell at Cardiff more than you did Middlesbrough?
Actually, I enjoyed both. Yeah. I enjoyed both. I went to Middlesbrough. I think it was around September, so I already missed the first few months of the season, so I went there late. So it was an opportunity to be there. Played half a dozen games in the Premier League. So for me, that was, I look back now, and that was enjoyable time for a short period that I was there. But Cardiff was fantastic. I loved it. Good people in the club, fantastic people in the club, fantastic supporters, and we had a decent team then as well. And I actually and a very good manager in Lenny Lawrence, where that I went there at 34, and I think I missed one game through the whole season. So
was that during the time that Sam Hammond was the owner?
Yes.
Yeah, he was quite a controversial figure.
Yep. So it was an interesting character, interesting person. Yeah. That season they just got promoted to the championship, so it was always going to be difficult. But we actually performed pretty good. Probably towards the end, we started to drift away, missing out on playoff place. But it was a good city. As I said, enjoyed my football there. So I can only say lots of good things there.
So you returned to Breda after that, and then you go back to your homeland in Australia for Central Coast, where you actually win the A-League Premiership. You then have a bit of a heart scare. How did you find out about this? Was it a relief when obviously everything gets sorted? Were you worried that your career was going to be over?
Well, I was 35, so it was coming to
it was coming to an end anyway, but obviously you wanted to end in your terms.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. It was the World Cup, 2006 World Cup year. Yeah. So, we just qualified from Uruguay months before, and going for a routine medical, which all the players had to do. They found an irregular heartbeat, so had to do further testing and other stuff. And cutting a long story short, it was probably a good thing that happened, because it was one that I was very lucky that it got found at an early stage, and it could have been fatal. Had 6 months off. I came back, and that's how I ended back in Australia, and played those 2 more years at Central Coast. So I was able to finish my career how I would have wanted to.
The qualifying for the World Cup was, am I right? I might be wrong here. It went to a penalty shootout, and you actually took one of the penalties. Was that the World Cup?
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yep, that's correct. Yep.
When I've watched footage of it, and to be honest, Tony, there was no way you were ever going to miss that, were you?
Yeah, that day I definitely wasn't going to miss it. It was, it was an unbelievable night, and we just had that belief that we would qualify, we would win, and through the 90 minutes and extra time, and then to take the penalty, I was confident that I was going to score.
No, it was a good penalty as well. And you played in the World Cup?
No, because when they found the irregularity, that was before the World Cup.
Right, so, I'm with you now. So your last game was against Newcastle Jets in the grand final. Obviously, it wasn't. You've never won that game, but were you happy to retire on your terms? Were you happy that you could call it a day without anything?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I probably could have gone another year. I think that physically I could have gone another year, but I thought, this is probably the time to do it. You don't know what's going to happen next year, and felt that I still had some petrol in the tank to go, but felt that this was the time to do it. Well before people actually tapping you on the shoulder and saying it's time. So as you said, you do it on your own terms, and it was the result was disappointing, but I just look back and just think that had a fantastic time.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything with the heart's okay now?
Yep. Good. No, everything's good. I'm still going on, so
that's good to hear.
Everything is good.
So after you retire, you've coached at Adelaide Youth, the South Australian National Training Centre, Australia under-17s. You're currently assistant manager with Melbourne City, which is actually part of the City Football Group, which is owned by Manchester City Chic. What's their influence like? Is it an exciting time to be part of Melbourne?
Yeah, it is. I think they've had the club now for 4 years, so it's still finding its feet, finding its way around, it definitely is an exciting time to be with the club. They have unbelievable training facilities, second to none in the country for football. Now we just need to start to win titles, and that's something that we're trying to work with the current group and emphasising about being winners, serial winners, and really making the most of their opportunities.
You've actually signed a player from Rangers, Michael O'Halloran.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you have an influence in that, or was it?
No. That was Warren Joyce. He knew about Michael. I think he's possibly worked with him before. So no, I had no influence on that.
Yeah, I think maybe there's a connection there with Bolton or something, maybe something to do with
that's correct. Yep, that's correct, yep.
So what's your own personal ambitions as a coach? Do you want to be a manager? Do you want to eventually manage in Europe, coach in Europe? Is that what you want to do, or not really thought about it?
I think, as a player, you want to go as far as you can and as high as you can. And this is my second season as an assistant coach. I've been a head coach with the national team, with the 17. Yeah. So, my ambition is that one day I'd like to coach in the A-League. Ideally, where I'm at now would be fantastic, and then you look beyond that, and you have that thought of that you want to head overseas and to coach in Europe. Yeah. So it's still that ambition that I want to do that as well, you just it probably is. Opportunities are probably less than there were as players, but you never know what can happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure if you put the same amount of dedication and commitment as you did as a player into your coaching career, then I think that's something you certainly will achieve. Just a couple of more questions. I asked Craig Moore this, and he gave me a very interesting answer. Australian players seem to be coming through at a decent level now, a decent ability as well. Do you think Rangers are actually missing a trick with the scouting network in Australia? Because we have missed out on a few good players that have come over to Scotland and indeed England.
I think it's still a market that Scottish football can take. I think now there's a few who've moved to Hearts this year. Mm-hmm. There's I think 3 Aussie players who've gone there, and over the period of time there are Aussie players who are going into Scottish football. I think it's a market that they can look into. I think that there's players who have that physical capacity, but also the technical and tactical side of the game as well. Yeah. So it's something that I think, and again, depending on what kind of player they're looking at, are they looking for a ready-made player, or are they looking for a younger player who they can work with to develop for the first team? So again, that's something that. If that's the club that's looking at, but definitely there are players here who I think can do well in Scottish football.
Well, hopefully if you see one coming through that's going to be good enough, hopefully you're straight on the phone to Govan and tell him about it. Do you still follow Rangers? Are you still a Rangers fan?
Yeah, I am. Yeah. That's never going to leave me.
No, that's good.
So when I can always look to watch the games. They show games here live, so it's always good to watch them.
What do you make of the appointment of Steven Gerrard?
Yeah, look, it's people would have probably said it was an interesting one, and I think that someone who has only just started managing. But I think he's, from the reports I heard, that he done well at Liverpool with their youth team, and someone who has a lot of football knowledge as a player, and I think he's one that probably will pick it up as a coach. So I was actually excited with the appointment.
Yeah, it was massive over in Scotland.
Yep.
In the whole of Britain, actually, it was pretty much the number one news story in football. How big was it in Australia? Was there much coverage of it?
There was coverage of it. So look, it was an appointment that was heard here. So as I said, I thought it was an interesting choice, but probably haven't had that much success over the last few years. So they needed to look at something different. So hopefully he brings the enthusiasm and, as I said, the knowledge and to the team, and that they really push to get as high as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you come over to Scotland much?
I have, since I've left, I have not been back.
Oh, right. We need to change that, Tony. We need to change that.
We need to change it. Well, the thing was, I was actually supposed to come with the family. Last Christmas we wanted to head to the UK, just to go to Scotland and to Wales, where our two children were born, to show them where they kind of grew up. Yeah. But my football job got in the way, right. And because I was appointed assistant coach just before Christmas, so I was not able to do that. But it's something that I'm looking at in the next 12 to 18 months to get there.
Well, I can guarantee that if you ever do come back, you'll be warmly received by every single Rangers fan. As I say, we've got very fond memories, especially of the goal against Parma, and you played in a lot of big matches and you won us a lot of titles. So for that, I can only thank you. And also, I'd like to thank you for giving me your time today. You've been very, very honest. You've answered everything I've asked, and it's just been a tremendous pleasure speaking to you.
No, it's been good. It's always nice to remember back all those years ago, and as I said, I loved my time in Glasgow, and thank you very much for having this interview.